Hi everybody, I'm here to show you how I make my perler beads with on top of my candy. So here is a flower pot that I made, and I should have realized to put holes in before. This one was a big one. I was originally going to make this into a necklace, but I ended up making it into a bracelet. You want to be careful when you do this. I have a big needle. I don't know if it's a doll needle or if it's just like an extra large needle that helps me poke through the plastic so I don't have to worry about bending my small ones that I use for embroidery. I go through them probably anywhere from 5 to 8 times. I need anywhere to get the hole big enough so I can get through it, and then I put it back through my felt so I don't stab myself with it. Then I get my floss or my elastic. This is me trying to figure out which colors to pick. I ended up just using my rainbow kit that I got off of Amazon. Didn't realize I moved that so far out of the frame. So you want to take your beads, you want to figure out what colors you want. I figured to kind of stick with the same colors of my picture. Greens, yellows, purples. I didn't have any brown beads, so I didn't put any of those in, but I feel like brown would have been too dark compared to the rest of the colors I had going on there. So you want to thread them. First, before you technically do this, you want to see how many of your perler beads, like your creation, how many pony beads wide that is, because that'll influence how many beads you need to put on. Because if you put the regular amount of pony beads on and then you thread your perler creation through, it's going to be big on you. So here's me having to remember to keep counting so I wouldn't make it too big that would be humongous, or too small that would be too tight. So that's what it looks like right there. That's about the halfway point that I did. It doesn't really matter where you stop or start halfway. Like, you don't have to do it right in the middle. It's just when you tie it, it'll look a little, in the process of tying it, it'll look a little more balanced, but in the end it ends up looking fine. So I usually pick a repeating pattern with multiple colors going in the same number, but I don't always do it. It's a little fun to spice it up every now and then. Alright, so this is where I am checking to see the length. So you can see how spinny it is. That's because it wasn't, basically I picked it up and it tied up a little bit. Remember, always be My next one I'm making into a necklace. It's like a gumball machine. Necklaces take up a lot more beads than you would think. They also take a lot longer, so make sure you have enough beads when you're doing it. This was my first mistake. I put it through the middle, forgetting how threading works. I ended up having to put holes in the other two sides anyway. If your needle is having trouble getting through the plastic, I would recommend doing what I did, and I just got one of my pliers or whatever they're called and just kind of squeezed them through that way. Remember, always be very careful when you do that. Needles are sharp. So this is where I was measuring like how many wide mine was. It was about 2 wide at the top where I'd be threading it through. And so now I've just started picking up the pattern using colors that are in the gumball machine. You kind of want to make sure your colors match, or at least don't clash horribly with each other, because then otherwise it looks kind of weird. If that's your style, go all for it, but I always like to pick colors that don't clash that bad. So here it's just making the pattern over and over again until I get to about where I think is the halfway point. So right around here I decided to rethread this, and this was when I poked the other 2 holes through it. The one side is about 30 beads long, which would, for my wrist size, I'm usually 27, so 30 beads would just be a little big for my wrist. So you can see how many beads this would take to make a necklace. So I'm poking them through, making sure the holes are big enough that everything can thread through. Don't worry about them being too big, because there really isn't too much of a thing unless you get too close to the edge, but that hasn't happened with me yet, and I've gotten pretty close to the edge sometimes. So this is me just threading it through like I did with the flower. And here we are going back and putting my pattern back on. I stopped when I put my Kandi dispenser on. I stopped halfway through the pattern before, so I picked up with the last 2 of the pattern. You can do that if you want, or you can continue the pattern. That's up to you. So here I'm just continuing the pattern again until I find that the length is good enough. That's all up to personal preference, but usually you want it long enough that it can fit over your head. If you like chokers, a lot of them I make end up being shorter than I planned. So depending on your head size, neck size, all that kind of stuff, you should take that into consideration when you're making a necklace, so you can calculate how many beads you'll need to make either a choker, medium, short, or long necklace. Don't be afraid to adjust your things. Like, I'm always pulling out more thread and more elastic, and I'm always shifting things down so I have enough room so I don't have to worry about, like, if I drop my string, so I don't have to worry about beads falling off or anything like that. Don't be afraid to cut with long tails. It takes more thread than you think to be able to tie it off, especially if you do it more than a couple times, because you need to be able to have enough to grip. This is me recounting, seeing how many exactly I had. I was originally just going to split it half and half, but I ended up adding more than I planned. So that's what it looks like at the moment. I'm adding just a couple of more to make it a little longer. Probably should have added more, but you'll see how it looks in the end. This is me just trimming and making sure everything fits. Now, it ends up coming just below my collarbones, which is 70 beads, which isn't that long. If you want yours longer, just remember you're going to need more beads. And yeah, that's all I got done in this video. If you guys liked it, please let me know. I'll be doing some more of these videos in the future. See you guys!